Sean P. Diddy Combs was found not guilty on several charges, yet there seems to still be a slippery slope he has to navigate. Let's talk about it. They 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 talk about it. Welcome back to She Could Talk to Podcast. I'm your host, Gangalee. Hey! And that's Gangalee on all streaming platforms if you want to check out my music. Look for the glasses, look for the locks. You tell me if I can rap, okay? Okay. But over here on YouTube, on She Could Talk to Podcast, this is where I react to everything. I react to news, sports, crimes, musicians, politicians, YouTubers, TikTokers. If they're talking about it, we're talking about it, okay? Okay. All right. So the long-awaited trial has come to an end. The P. Diddy Sean Puffy Combs trial. And of course, as you can see, as we all can see over the last couple of hours, days, not guilty on count one, racketeering, not guilty on count two, sex or ex African trade. So I'm going to use Pig Latin. Do you guys remember Pig Latin? Do you remember that? So ex African trade. But anyway, and then not guilty on trafficking Jane Doe, and not guilty on, so it was three not guilty and two guilties, right? So it was yet to be seen. So the big thing was a lot of people were saying that, hey, at least he did not get, the worst of the worst charges, and he could potentially go home and see his family soon, right? So good job there, right? He didn't get the worst of the worst, right? Which is sad to watch it unfold in front of his kids. And his kids are adults now, some of them not quite adults as of yet, and having to witness this, right? To endure it. But nonetheless, they were there, they were supportive of their dad, right? But what I wanted to do was just react to certain things that I saw, some news articles that I seen during the time, right after they determined his verdict. And then it was some time frame in between when they heard the verdict, but they was waiting to determine if he would be released on bail within the same day, right? So that's what a lot of people are still waiting for. I'm not going to lie, I was one of those. I was like 1:30. They kept on saying on different news outlets that 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, we were going to know, right? If he was going to be released or not. I waited 1:30. I didn't see anything come across, my timelines until the evening, like more towards 6 o'clock or whatever. But nonetheless, let's get into it. As we know by now, he was denied bail. He was denied bond. This is not the first time he was denied bond, though. Fun fact. It seems like every time there's a holiday, he's denied bond. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July. So I could be wrong, but it seems like it is. Everyone. So what I want to do now, I want to just kind of get into some news articles from the hours that after, I should say, the hours after the verdict. So let's get into it and share some reactions and some commentary.
Extensively since the beginning. It's been unfortunate that the public can't see what's going on inside the courtroom or hear what's going on because it's a federal case. However, you've talked to a lot of people who are very close to this case. Are you, one, surprised by the verdict, and two, how you expect the defense to try to get a lesser sentence for Diddy?
Yeah, I am. I'm as surprised at this as I was at Brian Koberger's plea deal, because I followed every letter of the law in the testimony and watching the exhibits, Marnie, and I checked every box. I just find it shocking that a jury couldn't put this together. But I'm sort of reminded of the long journey for women's sex rights, should I say, because in my lifetime, a wife couldn't be raped by her husband, right? And
So you guys tell me, how do you all feel? Do you feel, and this is me reacting to I just kind of gathered up a couple of news clippings and different things that I want to react to without really kind of honestly reacting to them beforehand. So this is me in real time for you all. But just listening to her, for started, before I do a preconceived judgment, let's get back and let me make a full commentary. Let me listen a little bit further.
I sort of look at this as though a jury saw girlfriends can't be sex trafficked. A jury saw that if you're willing one day or 1 month or 1 year, and you're unwilling in another day or another month or a year, that doesn't count. And so that
So my thing is this, right? I get what she's saying because I'm a woman, right? I don't want to be forced to do anything. And I don't think man or woman, no one should be forced to do something against their will or, without their permission should have something done to them, right? I agree with that completely. But the thing that always stuck out to me, and this is just my opinion, guys, please do not bite me. Okay? 10 years, a decade, close to 10 years she spent with him in a relationship through the abuse and everything. And I'm not saying that there's people that wouldn't stay, etc., right? I'm not saying that, the abuse would force people to deal with things. I react to a family that all types of abuse going on, in my opinion, allegedly, right? And they're still together, right? So people, not saying that people won't leave or will stay. Like, I'm not here to say what can and can't. I can't call it, right? Because I've never been, thank you Jesus, in those shoes. But the tenure of the relationship, I think, caused doubt, right? The tenure. Then the curation of the escorts, the supplies, the purchases of whatever, right? She kind of participated in that. That was a little for me, right? The next thing, which I was like, when Jane Doe testified, in my opinion, and I did a episode reaction on who I thought it was allegedly, right? I gave my opinion about it. You can go back a couple of weeks and check that out. But I kind of said the same thing. Like, it didn't seem like it was a forced thing. It didn't seem like this was a person being tortured or being forced to do these things on behalf of Diddy's or at Diddy's request. The reason why I say that is she testified, Jane Doe, that she was with him right up till he got arrested in New York. So we know the tape came out. We know the deposition came out. All of this stuff happened. And she still stuck through with him. That's very deep. And come to find out, just different, depending on what you're looking at, what you're reading. Some people say that she did not want to testify because she did not have a problem with Diddy. And she was forced to do so by the prosecuting attorney, right? So that's why when her testimony came across, it kind of felt like, I'm on the fence. Is she a victim, or is she doing this out of some type of spite, or is she forced? I'm going to lean towards the latter two. A little bit of spite, because if it is who we think it is, I can see the spite. And not to testify against Diddy, but more so perhaps the exposure of it all, knowing who you're tied to and who you have familial ties to, right? The exposure of it all. And then the second part of me is like a little bit of spite in that regard, because if it is Jane Doe, if it is Daphne Joy, allegedly, as people are saying, and if that was 50 Cent's baby mother testifying, right? That's a blow to 50 Cent's, right? Situation, his ego, his character, like, damn, that's the woman you had a baby with, right? So a little bit of spite there, but more so force, because if the prosecuting attorney forced her to testify, then what is she going to do if she's subpoenaed? Testify, right? But it wasn't a strong testimony. I said that from the day one. It didn't seem strong to me. It seemed more so, I don't know, like maybe you was willing to do it because you probably felt like you didn't get all of the perks and all of the benefits of maybe a Cassie or maybe a Carisha after. I don't know. But let's get back into it. I felt like, though, a lot of news outlets, like maybe perhaps this one even, had a lot of projection going on. I see a lot of TikTok journalists, YouTubers, a lot of projection going on. I feel it. It's a lot of hurt in the world. A lot of us are hurt. It's a lot of abuse and a lot of stuff that the world has been through. I feel it. So we all want some form of justice, however it may come. That's the vibe I'm feeling from everyone after this. Not me personally. When I'm talking about, that's what I'm feeling from everyone around. All right. So let's get into it.
That's what's, I think, really troubling to me on this. And I think that no matter what, the government is certainly going to push for the maximum. I believe it's 10 years for the Mann Act federally for each count. And these are not the kinds of counts that you look at concurrently, right? Because these are different. They are different days. They are different victims. So these could be easily consecutive sentences, which would mean maximum 10 years each, which would mean a 20-year sentence. And in the federal system, you don't get as much time off for good behavior. You know, you serve a lot of your federal sentences. So if he gets the max for each and he gets 20 years because it's consecutive, he would probably have to serve, I'm going to ballpark here, like 18. But yeah, I'm really astounded at this, Marnie.
Right. And the prosecution's challenge to get a guilty verdict was connecting the dots that, okay, you could show the video, you could have the testimony from these victims on the stand that was horrific, but was a criminal act carried out? I mean, it was a stretch by many legal accounts to try to get a guilty verdict on the RICO charge.
I completely agree. I agree completely with her. It was definitely some wild stuff, some raunchy stuff popping off, but it kind of seems, in the grand scheme of things, that it was a lot of consent. My opinion, it seems like it was a lot of consent. It was a lot of, work, pay for play, if you may, right? So it was like hired work, hired, I don't know, help, I don't know, workers, right? So it didn't seem like people walked away with nothing, even Cassie in the end, right? 30 million or close to it. And I'm not saying that she's not a victim of that. Victim of abuse, yes. Victim of the violence, being dragged up and hit and all that stuff, yes. And also a victim, I think, of the lifestyle, because you wanted to live an opulent lifestyle. So maybe in her mind, she felt like this was some of the things she had to do or deal with to gain an opulent lifestyle. I don't know. That I'm not here to judge that. But let's get into it, because I got a few more things here I want to react to.
But you listened to the testimony and you talked to people close to the case. What was most compelling about what they shared bravely on the stand against their will for years?
I didn't think it was a stretch to get RICO at all. In fact, when I saw that question, Marnie, if somebody asks for drugs and then the defendant gives drugs, is that distribution? Yes. It is. I mean, it's just common sense, right?
Well, it's also because who's asking, right? Who's asking? I mean, it's Sean Diddy Combs. It's a celebrity. He's got power. He's got clout. He's got authority over you.
The idea here is that if the defendant is facing distribution of drugs, and that's one of the predicate acts under the RICO statute. I mean, yes, if you handed the drugs.
To me, technically she's right? As far as like the distribution, you're handing out drugs, etc., right? But and correct me if I'm wrong out there, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I thought, and let me just make sure I'm looking at that correctly, when they refer to the distribution, like intent to sell, or is that just a different thing? Because I thought like distribution, you're selling it to people to do what they need to do with it, right? Or you're selling it maybe in bulk, or selling it to folks hand to hand. But if you're kind of, and I get it, guys. I'm not stupid. I get it. Where it's like you're in a party, you're somewhere, and they're passing it out. It's still distribution. But I kind of could not. I could see why they said not guilty. I could see why they said not guilty. So to me, the lady with the serious face, right, with the blazer on, you see her face. She's not budging. I kind of see where she's coming from. I'm kind of feeling her vibe. She's like, yo, it was a stretch legally for them to say racketeering or, African trade. I'm talking pig Latin there, guys. I'm talking pig Latin. But I agree with her. I think it was a stretch. After we went through these 8 weeks of torture and these details, it was a stretch, in my opinion.
So if it doesn't matter if somebody asked, you handed them over, that's distribution. So when I saw that question, I thought, well, they're going to clearly be instructed. Here's the law. Yeah. And so it looked as though they had that predicate act checked, that They clearly knew that he handed the drugs over. They just wanted to know if somebody asked, did it mitigate that in some way? And the law that was given to them, told them no, it doesn't mitigate it. Then they believed in the Mann Act. They believed in the prostitution and the illegal sex acts. What is just confounding to me is that they didn't see a kidnapping. There were 2 instances where there were other witnesses who corroborated. They didn't see bribery. There were multiple witnesses who talked about bribery. There were multiple witnesses from the Intercontinental Hotel who said, first he tried to bribe me. I said no. Then he went to my bosses and we said no. Then we went to the bosses again and we said yes. And there was a big bag of money. And there were multiple witnesses and a lot of testimony. There's 2 acts right there, Marnie. 2 acts satisfies RICO over the course of 10 years. And all you needed was an enterprise. And an enterprise didn't need to be a financial enterprise. It just needed to be a group of people who agreed. And there were 3 of Sean Diddy.
She was really seeming like the energy I'm getting from her is like she's really super disappointed because they told her already, they lined it out, they laid out the plan, and she already knew that he would be guilty on these charges. That's the vibe I get from her. And she's shocked that it didn't go that way.
Combs enterprise present, according to multiple witnesses, Sean, KK, and his bodyguard. I just don't understand how they didn't get to RICO. And I'm shocked at sex trafficking. I'm sad. I'm sad about the sex trafficking because those women were browbeaten into doing horrible things that they said they didn't want to do. They may have wanted to do it originally when the love bomb.
But that's the thing. I think don't do it originally, right? And you wouldn't have been there at the end. That's just my opinion, right? Because it's one thing to be like, okay, we're having a little fun tonight. But the extent of the stuff that they did, come to find out, that was deep. Like that. After one of those sessions, you'd be like, wait a minute now. Hold on. Right?
Bombing happened. They may have wanted to do it. That's fine. But when the love bombing didn't happen and they were forced into it, suddenly we're back to you can rape your wife. That's how I feel about the mentality of seeing whether you can sex traffic your girlfriend.
Count 1, not guilty.
So this was just different stuff I found on like TikTok of just different people outside the courthouse getting different, just trying to fill out the vibe of outside of the courthouse while the verdict was read, right? So this guy came out and kind of read it to the journalists that were outside, right? Which consist of the TikTokers, the YouTubers, podcasters. Yeah, you already know the usuals that are out there. So let's get into it.
Sex trafficking, not guilty. Transportation to prostitution, guilty.
Yeah, we expected that.
In the matter of U.S. versus Combs, count 1, not guilty.
Not guilty.
Sex trafficking, Alpha Cassandra Ventura, not guilty. Transportation for prostitution, guilty. Count 1, not for prostitution, guilty. Count 1, not guilty.
So of course, this is like still around the courthouse, and these are all like vloggers, YouTubers, TikTokers, and they're just and news reporters, like all types of journalism. So shout out to all of the content creators and journalists that are out there. It was a spectacle, though. It became wild. So they're chanting, "Let Puffy go." And I get it, right? The reason why I get it is like he's a legend. He's a hip hop legend in my lifetime. I've been to the hip hop parties that were their Bad Boys music was the soundtrack to the club scene, right? Literally my college years, I can think of, Biggie, the Versace shirts, like everyone was parking lot pipping to Biggie back in them days. Shout out. You know what I'm saying? So this is all of our youth, right? We're getting robbed of our youth week by week, day by day, right? Every time a new artist, a new actor, a new celebrity gets thrown to the wolves, basically. So I can see that the fans are truly like overjoyed about, getting some type of, good news because he still got 2 guilty verdicts. Do 2 guilty counts. But the celebration started maybe prematurely, if you will, but it was going off. Look at them, they arguing back and forth. So these are supporters. Look, so then this guy Look what he has, guys. A bottle of Astroglide and a bottle of baby oil. You see it. You see it. So clearly, they started having so much fun out there that people just started pouring baby oil and Astroglide all over themselves. Let's take a look.
Slide at your wrist. Slide at your own wrist. So I had to ask you.
So he was one of the ones out there with the baby oil going crazy.
Baby oil, or did you pick them up afterwards, or how did that?
So
take shape?
listen,
It was
and then listen to this journalist that asks the guy the question about the baby oil. Are they serious? Or is this real? Listen, let's go.
Look. Slide at your wrist. Slide at your own wrist. So I had to ask you, did you come with a bottle of Astroglide and baby oil, or did you pick them up afterwards, or how did that take shape?
It was
Did you
actually
hear him?
gifted to me.
Okay.
It was a gift that keeps
I'ma let
on
you hear that
giving.
report
Never
one
even
more
seen
time.
this thing.
Okay.
It's the
Let me
first
let you
thing.
hear
So I had to ask you, did you come with a bottle of Astroglide
What?
and baby oil, or did you pick them up
What?
afterwards, or how did that take shape?
It was actually gifted to me.
Okay.
It was a gift that keeps on giving. Never even seen this thing.
Okay.
It's the first thing.
Right.
But when I touched it, I seen the power that it had.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It have magical properties.
Right.
Magical properties, man. But you got to keep it separate from the baby oils. That's how you get caught up in the freak out. So just make sure you just do that. Oh, when I heard the not guilty, I didn't know if I was hearing it right. I said, I made noise in the corner, You know, the officers, the court officers is trying to tell us, quiet, quiet, quiet. I think he needs to be now as an advocate against abuse and abuse of women and abuse of anybody. I think he needs to stand firmly in this and become a beacon in this. He needs to become an ambassador of this now. This is something that he personally needs to do.
I
at
heard
him.
allegedly
He
it
was
was two
cutting
slip and
up.
falls in the freako. Look. Slide at
He
your
was
wrist.
truly
Slide at your
cutting
own
up.
wrist.
Happening inside of a courtroom. No, instead,
So look at this news reporter. She was a little perplexed. Look at the AI picture at the bottom. I don't know if y'all see that or not, but everyone's holding a baby oil at the bottom in front of the courthouse. Total AI picture. But let's look at the top. This lady was perplexed.
I kid you not.
And I seen quite a few YouTubers like shirtless, baby oiled up. It was really happening.
People are pouring baby oil on one another outside this courthouse. Baby oil having a very big play in the freak-offs we heard about. You have people saying it's not Rico, it's Freako. You've got applause coming when the mother of Sean Diddy Combs, Miss Janice, got out of the vehicle just a few moments ago, really, behind us and walked inside to elated cheers and her greeting the crowd. Every time the family, the children, the 6 adult children come in, 3 boys and 3 girls, they are met by cheers, and also at times throughout the course of trial, met by scathing and disrespectful comments as well, a lot of profanity. But and etiquette that is happening inside of a courtroom, no, instead.
To Lisa Evers, who's live in front of the courthouse.
So that was immediately after the verdict, right? We've seen news reporters coming out. We're seeing people chanting, like people celebrating. People was pouring baby oil on themselves and each other, right? So, but we still had to wait. We still had to wait because that came through early. Like, I don't even know, like 10 o'clock that came through, even earlier maybe. But they had to wait until 1:30 to actually get to determine if he's going to have bail or not. So that was the next thing. So by the time this came up, we discovered that bail was denied. And I feel like Fox News reporters were a little emotional behind it. Let's see.
Lisa, what was the decision by the
In a weird way, if you're from New York, Fox is like hometown news.
judge to deny bail for Diddy?
Well, Bianca and Natasha, first of all, this, I'm sure, was a tremendous disappointment to his mother and to his children and to his other family, and as well as to the supporters that we've seen out here outside of the courthouse. But in terms of the legality of it, according to Attorney Jeremy Sallin, who we've been speaking with this hour, he said that this is fairly standard in terms of a conviction on these prostitution transportation charges, which are the 2 counts that Diddy was found guilty of. Now, what the big argument and the big push to keep him behind bars obviously came from the prosecutors. I'm sure it seemed that they were very upset about the verdict from the jury not getting that RICO case that they had pushed so hard for against the better advice of some in the legal community who didn't think that was appropriate in this particular circumstance. They also lost out on the sex trafficking. That was not guilty. And they said at this morning, the prosecution said that you're...
Look at the crowds of people out there, and this literally be like one corner, and then you go to the other corner, it's like a different crowd of people. You go to the other side of the courthouse, walk into the campus courtyard, it's a different group. This was definitely an interesting situation, right? And people were out there like it was their job, right? Like if they didn't show up, he was not going to get the right sentence or the right verdict. They were dedicated. So I give it to them. Shout out to everyone that was dedicated to being out there for these 8 weeks, because that's some serious stuff. But guess what? I feel like the content, they might have gotten some awards. I don't know, depending on who they were. But it was mayhem. For me, personally, I feel like it was a lot of craziness going on. You seen people getting yelled at. I seen one video earlier where Lovely T, shout out to Lovely T, was filming a guy, and I don't know who the guy was, yelling at Tisa Tells, shout out to Tisa Tells, while she was filming. And then I saw another one where another guy, a girl was yelling at him and following him. And then I saw where two YouTubers, or a TikToker and a YouTuber, clashed, you know. It was just like a lot going on, like week after week out there, a lot going on, right? And then the crazies are coming out, because I feel like events like this, crowds, etc., is going to attract some crazies as well. So definitely with some crazies out there. The baby oil scene, it was one scene, this girl had like blue hair on and her bra and her panty. That's it. Her bra and her panty and a blue wig out there. They squirted baby oil on her. She got loose. She got loose in front of the courthouse. Loose. So, but let's get back to it. We're almost done.
We need several hours to come back and consider bail. Otherwise, they would have just considered the bail, the bail application and the bail situation right there shortly after the verdict was read. That was not the case. They were granted all these extra hours, the extra afternoon. Sean Diddy Combs sitting in a holding cell all the while this afternoon while they're crafting these letters to the judge to explain their positions. And the defense was arguing his mother, who we've seen many times here on Fox 5 going in and out of court every single day to support her son. She's 85 years old. The argument of the defense was that he's her primary caregiver, and certainly he is the closest relative to her, and that he also has a 3-year-old baby daughter, baby Love Sean Combs, and that's her name. And so that was their argument, but the prosecution he still remains a danger. They wanted him behind bars until the sentencing, and this was, I'm sure, was devastating to Combs and many of the family who seemed elated. They were elated, in fact, when they heard those not guilty verdicts, but it's one more step. And as we've seen with Combs in other situations, once he's determined, he's going to see it through. The worst is over in one sense, in that he is no longer looking at life behind bars. On the other hand, his attorneys will have to file an appeal to this to this denial of bail. And remember, they had several bail applications throughout the course of the pre-trial conferences and after his arrest that were completely denied. And those were just eye-popping bail packages, $50 million, 20.
Listen to her break down some of the bail offers he had right up until now.
24-hour armed guards, an Upper East Side apartment where there was limited access, no internet access for him, monitoring cameras, monitoring his activities, no guests allowed coming in, and that was denied. So we'll see what happens now. But this has to be a devastating blow for the family. The family's been very united and come together at this. We saw the two sprinters that have taken most of the family after 1 o'clock this afternoon, or a little bit earlier a little bit after that, after we found out that they found out the hearing.
So this reporter right here, and her name escapes right now. They said it. She may say it at the end. She is like I don't know, OG of on the street reporting, like on the ground reporting, like how she is right now. But I don't know if she's emotional or what's going on because I've never seen her quite like this. But let's get back to it.
Would be at 5 o'clock. They all went out together to have lunch or to have something to eat, if in fact they could do that. I'm sure many of them thinking, okay, you know what, Dad's coming home, my son's coming home, that type of thing. And he will not have to spend another night in the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center, which is a place nobody wants to go. And so that's what it is. It's just a devastating blow for them. They went from this high this morning.
Do you see the crowds on both sides of the street? The crowds are on both sides of the street. Plus, I could tell you, I can guarantee you, all around. Like, all around. You know, like all the corners.
Of realizing that there's just those 2 counts of the prostitution transportation that they're facing, and that that can be dealt with over time. That's a far cry, Bianca, Natasha, from looking at the possibility of life behind bars, which would have been with the RICO case
bad.
and many decades
Not
on the
that
sex
bad.
trafficking case, because that also carries a very, very heavy penalty. But that's it for today so far. And then tomorrow the courtroom will be, tomorrow the whole courthouse is on administrative leave, is on administrative closure, meaning that they will be, we're getting interference.
So, I don't know. This right here was giving me a whole nother thing, like a whole nother thing to react to. Totally left, not even nothing to do with Diddy. But I felt like the 2 girls in the newsroom was not vibing with Mama on the street. I don't know why. I don't know why I get that vibe.
From all the helicopters up above. So tomorrow
Lisa,
the courthouse that you see right behind me, where
You
the
saw that, right? Did y'all peep that? Okay.
trial's taking place and where this bail hearing just happened.
Yeah, so it was not much more of that. But fun fact, I remember when Kim Porter passed away, right? And Kimora Lee had voiced expressed her concerns about certain things, etc. There was a psychic lady on YouTube named Sloan Bella. I be up and down these YouTube streets, y'all. I be up and down these YouTube streets. But Sloan Bella, have you ever heard of her? Look her up. In particular, look up her predictions for Puffy from Kim Porter. Just go back to Kim Porter or her talking to Kim Porter, such as that effect, right? And when you look up Sloan Bella and you see her and you look at her, first, as soon as you see her, you're going to be like, this lady had psychic, what? Right? But, psychics are psychics. And one thing that, a lot of things, I would say, that she has allegedly predicted, we'll say, up until this point, were almost 99% accurate. Almost. They asked her on one of her lives back then, do you think that Puffy's going to go to jail and spend a lot of time in jail, blah, blah, blah. She said, a lot of this stuff is happening for humiliation purposes, but she does not see him spending time in jail, but they're going to drag it out. Like they're going to not let him see his family. They're not going to not let him go home, etc. Damn if it ain't true. Damn if it ain't true. Right? And I used to always say that. I said, well, if he goes home, then she didn't predict that right. Thanksgiving, he didn't go home. I said, okay, well, if he gets bail now, then she didn't predict that right. He didn't get bail. Then we were like, maybe she's an informant. Like maybe they're paying her. Like she truly saying some stuff like she knows some stuff, right? But she says she's a psychic. Her theory, if we're going to continue along the lines of her predictions, she said that this is basically all to humiliate him, to embarrass him, and to basically know what type of stuff he likes to do, like the FOs, etc., right? But it's not really a crime that was had. So as a result of it, he's not going to really do any time. The humiliation's enough. That's what she said. Something to that effect. It wasn't verbatim. Go check her out. But my spidey senses are tingling now. Like, maybe this is what might be potentially. I don't know. I don't want to say one thing or the other, right? Because some people were saying like he would not be guilty on any accounts. I didn't think he was going to be guilty on the ones that he wasn't guilty on. So I give myself that kudos. All right. Now, as far as today, I thought he was going to be able to come home on bail. That was me. I thought he was going to get bail. But he didn't. And so I'm like, now I don't know what else is going to happen. Like, he has to stay there until October, which is when he gets his sentence in. Long time. Will it be time served? Will it be 18 years like these two ladies were speculating at the beginning of my reaction video? We don't know, right? This is still something that's dragged out and remains to be seen, like how this will end. But you guys, I'm going to leave it here. I just wanted to do an update as far as where we were at, right? I didn't want to come blow by blow, week by week with this because the details gave me a headache. The details gave me a headache of this trial. But I wanted to get, to this point and tell you all what I think. I'd share you what I thought on my emotional roller coaster throughout the couple of weeks here. But in the beginning, I probably would have been like, guilty on all counts. As we went through week by week, hearing the information, hearing the testimonies, I swayed a little bit towards not guilty because I'm like, this seems like everybody was having fun. Seems like everybody was consenting. I don't know. And then now we're here, bail denied, right? So we'll see what happens here from this point on, and we're definitely gonna have to kind of keep our ear to the ground. But until next time, y'all, you know how I do. You guys join me in the comments to tell me what y'all think, though, before I go, right? Before I hit you with the motto and the brand. Go ahead and join me in the comments. Now, I'll hit you with the motto and the brand. If you like anything I do, tell a friend. If you don't like anything I do, tell a friend. And from my lips to your ears, I love you. But I need you to go ahead and love me. Give me a little love, right? So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Turn on your notifications. And then share it and tell a friend. And until next time, y'all, it's your girl Gongali. It's She Could Talk the Podcast. And I'm out. Peace. They talk about it. They talk about it.